Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. I want to bring you a quick forecast update today. We do have a chance of some severe weather on Tuesday. Still in play. I want to bring you the latest on that, though. We'll start out here right now. Temperatures around the area warm for this time of year. I mean, here it is, the 31st of January, Sunday, and we're setting at 65 at Evansville, 63 there at the Huntingburg Airport, 60 all the way up as north as Indianapolis, and it's 2:43 in the afternoon Eastern time here. So pretty warm around the area. We are expecting some showers to develop today. It's not going to be a major event by any means. There's nothing out there on radar right now, but later on this late afternoon into the evening, overnight hours, we may see a few showers roll through. Nothing really big. The bigger event is certainly going to come by on Tuesday. Slight risk of severe weather, basically from pretty close to I-70 and southward is about where you can say for this. A slight risk for all of southern Indiana. Notice the enhanced to the south, and basically this equates to a 15% risk, 30% stronger risk for weather down, severe weather down a little bit to our south. Let's look at the numbers here. Here's where we're going to expect to go on Tuesday. Warm on Tuesday again by the time the weather's rolling through into the mid 60s. The way things look right now, so very similar to this afternoon, but we'll have a front nearing that will be a lot more powerful with it. And let me just show you some of the big things that are going to go on here. Precipitable water is pretty solid out there, and this is a measure of moisture content coming in. Notice it's just a steady stream from the Gulf of Mexico, so it's going to be warm, it's going to be moist. And you know what that means. Warmth and moist is going to indicate the potential for a little bit of instability. You can combine that with strong wind energy going on here as well, and you've got a recipe for some strong storms to develop. How much instability would we be talking about here? Well, not a tremendous amount of instability here. Let me just show you this. This would be surface-based instability, and you know it's fairly marginal, couple 300 units here. But if we just put on this, which is what we just call an upper air sounding here, basically, and we're looking at the raw numbers here from it. What you can see here, this is your CAPE. Your convective available potential energy, only 171 units, joules per kilogram there at the surface. That's not very strong, but as you go up, you're talking maybe 744 in the most unstable part of the atmosphere. So there is a pretty strong indication there that we have enough CAPE, at least on this particular model, to fire off some severe storms. Its probable hazard type on this would be a tornado watch. So that's something that we will watch out for. By the way, the GFS, this is the NAM I'm showing. The GFS has none on it at this. So there are still some differences in the modeling at this point. But it's something that we're going to have to watch a couple of days. I do think there is a risk for some severe storms here. There's also a risk primarily for damaging winds, but I don't want to rule out the fact that there could be some tornadoes as we look at the change in wind direction as you go up in the atmosphere. And here you go, down at the surface here in the red, you got winds going pretty much out of the south, but as you go up, you notice that they start to tilt to more of the southwest here. And so as you not only have a change in wind speed as you go up, but you have a change in wind direction. So that is your speed shear and your directional shear. So that could lead to some rotation. That's something that we'll have to keep an eye on. There's some numbers that we can use for that to look. One is the supercell composite parameter, and this helps us to identify where we would run the risk for those supercells, which could produce tornadoes. And the bullseye up to our north, where we're probably not going to be expecting much severe weather out here, but there is, at least on this, reasonable parameters where we could see some around here. The concerning one, though, would be the STP, the significant tornado parameter. It does look a little stronger to our south, but some of it does marginally extend here into at least extreme southern Indiana. So again, this is not something that we can rule out, and but it's certainly something that we can't rule in either. We're just going to have to wait and see, but a slight risk of severe weather on Tuesday, and it does look like if we can get some storms organized, we can possibly see some things go severe. Let's talk about that. Is it going to get organized? Look at high-res future radar here. Here we go through the afternoon today. Nothing really develops until late this afternoon. Here by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, we got some showers developing around the area according to future radar. That starts to roll through, and then by about midnight or so, that's rolling out of the area. Monday looks pretty dry for the most part around the area, maybe an isolated shower, but really nothing else. We stay dry all the way until we get into the overnight hours, early Tuesday morning, that's when we start to see some showers rolling into our west. Then we're going to watch out to our afternoon to see whether we can get anything organized with it. Do we get a line of severe thunderstorms organized or not? This model never really organizes it that much. This goes all the way out to 7 p.m. and you can notice it's really a kind of a broken cluster, a broken line of storms more than anything. You got a little line formed down to your south, but it's not one to do much over us. So that is could be a couple of ways. If these end up being supercells, then that could be bad. Uh, Individual cells that are not in a line could have the potential for stronger tornadoes. Could also mean, though, that we are weaker up here than what we are down here, so it could be taken a couple of different ways. As we get closer to the event, I think future radar will start to dial in with a little bit more accuracy, but right now we're at 60 hours on this, which is the end of the modeling, and the high-res NAM really is hard for me to trust at 60 hours. It shines underneath of 36 hours, so give it another day or so. I think on Monday we'll start to see a little bit clearer picture of what we're going to expect, but right now the question is going to be, can we get it? How strongly organized can we get it? Wind energy is there. I do think we're at least going to have some marginal instability there. Damaging wind gusts would be the primary threat in my opinion, and I think it would be more of a line than anything. And then the secondary threat would be some brief spin-ups on the leading edge of that line is kind of what I'm thinking. Not really liking the looks of this future radar. I think this will probably change as we go into tomorrow a little bit, but we'll have to see how things go. That's kind of the latest of where we stand right now. The risk is still there, folks. Not the strongest risk we've ever had in the world. Doesn't look like it's going to be an outbreak of all outbreaks to top everything, but certainly we could see a few warnings for damaging wind gusts firing off and maybe an isolated tornado or two around the area. So it's certainly one that you'll want to keep serious. As we look on the GFS and we look at what comes behind it, though, there that system leaves. An active period does set up, though. You notice as we head later on, we got the potential for some much colder weather coming in, as indicated by these blue lines. This is the upper levels of the atmosphere. You've got you've got a northwest flow going on. It will cool down a little bit. Even some chances for some light snow showers here and there. Indications there, maybe by the 9th or 10th, we start to get a system in there that could roll in there with that. We'll have to keep an eye on that and monitor it. Temperature-wise, though, I do think it will get cooler beyond this. That's definite. We're in the 50s and 60s today around the area. It will warm up again to the 60s there by the time we get that severe weather rolling through. But watch what happens as we move that through. We're going to drop down to the 30s for highs and 20s for lows. At times, maybe even go into the low 40s for highs for a few days. That's of course not going to be the 50s and 60s like what we're seeing. That's going to be more normal for this time of the year. There are hints as we get later on into the period, though, that we could get a nice little Arctic air invasion come down. In fact, single digits look like they could be possible here by the time you wake up on the 10th, which would be on a couple of Wednesdays from now. But that doesn't last long, and you notice a couple of days later you're already warming up into the mid to upper 40s, nearing 50 around the area. Beyond that again, before you start to cool way back down again. So again, just like in my long range update a couple of days ago, folks, cold weather, it looks like we're going to get some shots this early part of the month, but for the first half of February, that cold weather looks pretty transient. It looks like we get a pretty, we might have a day or two in there that's a pretty hefty hitting cold snap to us. Then we warm back up to the 40s and maybe even a 50-degree day here and there. It's going to be a very up and down first half of the month. Signs are there, though, the later that we head into February, the more that cold wants to stick around. And so we're just going to have to see and wait for whether that pans out or not. But it does look to me like the last half of February could end up being much more on the colder side. So stay tuned. If you like colder weather with the potential for some snow, I think it does come, but I think it's going to be later in February before we really start to see that work out. 10-day forecast, you can go to southernindianaweather.com to get that. Again, going down to about 43 tonight with a few showers around it. It'll remain breezy. 50s again tomorrow. I think we stay dry. Severe weather possible on Tuesday. We'll have to watch for those strong to severe storms. Highs in the up into the lower 60s again around the area, upper 50s, lower 60s. And then once that diminishes, we got much cooler weather going on. 40s and upper 30s dominating for the period for at least a little while. And again, you see that's kind of that up and down pattern. You go for a high of 45 one day to 32 the next day, back up into the mid 40s the next day. So we get some cool snaps come in there, but it doesn't look like any major sustained cold for the first half of February at this point. Second half of February certainly could be a much different scenario. We'll keep a watch on it. That's it for now. Slight risk of severe weather for Tuesday, folks, so keep that in mind. Make your severe weather plans ready. I'll have another one of these updates for you tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite. Have a great day.